Good day, everybody out there in Facebook land. I am talking today about one of my, I guess it's one of my favorite subjects, courageous love. And I want you to think about this with me here. Um, how many of you have ever had your heart broken? Oh, by the way, I'm Paul Sterling. I am a relationship and intimacy coach. I am coming to you. I am currently visiting a friend. So I'm in one of the spare bedrooms. Scott Thomas, who's the creator of Love Coach Academy. I'm up here visiting him and diving in. Hi, Joanne. Where are you coming in from? So here we go. I'd love for this to be interactive. So check in wherever you're coming in, typing in from in the world. Let me know. Um, hey, Danielle. One point I want to talk to you about your Native American or Native Canadian roots. I am part Ute and I want to hear more about it. So, anyway, here we are. We're talking about courageous love. I want to give you some tips, tools, and techniques. And well, from Wales in the UK. Very cool. And so, what is courageous love? And why does it take courageous love? And um, hi from Canada. So if you think about it, how many of you have ever owned a pet? So I'm seeing you, I'm looking at Facebook, I can see you, you're raising your hand or you're typing in yes. Um, and if you've ever owned a pet before and you get another pet, you know something that most pets' life is going to end before you do. So the thing is, it takes a lot of courage to take a pet and love a pet, knowing that that pet is going to pass away before you do. It is the same in relationships at some levels. Um, we've almost all had our hearts broken in a relationship, and yet we dive back in again, knowing that the outcome of most relationships is either somebody leaves or somebody dies. Um, from Chantel Hughes. This was a mistake. I love this that it was a mistake because I'm dyslexic and I'm trying to read some of these things in here. Um, Wales, UK, Canada, Quebec, Canada. Chantel Hughes. I don't know where that is. Hi, Donna. Anyway, here we go. And by the way, just I love the interaction because then it doesn't feel like I'm just talking to a screen here, and that feels very one way. And it's much more a relationship conversation. It's interactive. So hopefully you have a pen and paper. This is interactive. This is going to be a deep dive. I am going to hopefully show you a different way of looking at. There we go, looking at love in a changing world. And right now, the world is changing. The whole pandemic that's out there, social distancing, everything's happening with elections here in the United States. We've had wildfires in California. I got evacuated 2 different times from 2 different wildfires that were like 200 or 250 miles apart from each other. I went from being north end of Napa Valley to down by Carmel Valley, California. So north of San Francisco to south of San Francisco and got evacuated twice. So things are in change. Our world is changing. And the way we look at relationships is changing. So let's dive in and take a look at that. And as it's changing, what I want you to think about is the gap from where you are now and where you want to be. Is that gap getting bigger or is it getting smaller? I know for a lot of people right now, this gap right here is getting bigger and bigger. And hopefully you can read that. All right. So let's take a look at where you are now and where you want to go. This is I had to simplify things. So there's 5 different possible places. Now, is this perfect? It's not a perfect system. It's just to give you an idea of where you are, where you want to go. So here at the bottom, we have couples that are caught in crisis. So are you feel like you're in crisis? And crisis, by the way, is where you're, should I stay? Should I go? Is this, am I ever going to be able to make this relationship work? The next level up is conflict. So conflict, it's like issues get recycled over and over again. They don't get resolved. Um, they keep showing up. Are you in crisis, conflict, stuck? And it's like stuck in a rut. The, it's not moving anywhere. You love each other, but things feel stuck. You haven't had any breakthroughs in a long time, and you really want it. The next one is where relationships are good or okay. And then lastly, it's where it's great. Your friends are envious. It's amazing. You know, you walk down the road or you walk down the sidewalk and people are going, get a room. You guys, you look too much in love with each other. So where is your relationship now? And where do you want it to be? And if you're feeling really courageous, you can type that in. If you're not feeling courageous, just hold that in your head. By the way, if you got questions from what I'm talking about today, and you want to private message me, you can private message me, Paul Sterling, here on Facebook or and I'll put my website up here just so that you can. Ooh, here's the website. Here's a great thing to do. You want to know more about your relationship? Go to arguelesslovemore.net, take the survey, /survey. It will help you understand where you are, where you're going, what skills you need. All right, so we're going to dive in. Well, one more point here. Divorce rate, 55% plus. Now, if you think about it, and one of my clients is a divorce attorney. I was just talking to her about this. Anyway, do you think that 55% is equal to all 5 of these areas? Do you think 55% of the people that have great relationships are getting a divorce and 55% of the people in crisis are getting a divorce? No, it's almost 0% here. And about 95% of the people that get a divorce come from either crisis or conflict. So this is something to look at here. If you want to bulletproof, I know that's a silly example, but you want to make your relationship really solid, move it up here. That's the best way you can guarantee that it's going to last. All right. So here, this is an interactive question. I'm going to get rid of that for right now. What do you see here? And this ties in. If you could just type in, what do you see when you look at this picture? And there's several different options. I'm going to give you a second because it takes a second to respond here. What do you see? And there's actually at least several different images that are in there. One is of an older woman. One is of a younger woman. So if you could just type in older or younger, which one did you see? And what happens is when you see it, it makes it hard to see the other one. So I'll point them out to you. First, I'll point out the younger woman. So this is her chin, that's her nose, that's her eye. She is facing in that direction. All right, now I'll get rid of that. And I'm going to point out the older woman. This is her eye, that is her nose, this is her mouth, and she is facing this way. Can you see, which one did you see first, the older one or the younger one? Or do you see both of them? So what I want to do is change the way you look at relationships so you can see them differently. So that's part of what this is to give you that outlook. Now, in 25 years of coaching couples, I found that this is the most important thing. This is what makes relationships work. It's not easy, but it is powerful. If you want to make a relationship work, you make it easy to win, hard to lose, and stay in a state of gratitude. What happens is when we start downward, and I know this from going through one divorce, four broken engagements, I know this really well. When we start heading downhill is when we start taking each other for granted. And in the relationship, it becomes easy to lose and hard to win. So the whole idea here is, how do we keep staying in a state of gratitude? This is simple, but it's not easy. When we get down here, what we're trying to avoid is this that I call the point of no return. Now, I'm going to tell you why you're on this call, which is gutsy of me. And I'm also going to tell you why you're not on this call. I'll start with why you're not on this call. You don't need more information. If you just wanted information, you could go to Google and type in, well, just as an example, I typed in diet advice, 26,900,000 results in either 0.19 seconds or anyway, whatever, whichever that means. It's either 19 seconds or 0.19 seconds to be able to get 26,900,000 results. So you could read everything there and it wouldn't help your diet. I typed in relationship advice, 94,800,000 different responses in 0.32 seconds. Now, the thing is, that is all, information. What you want is transformation, not information. And hi, Brian, what's up? So let's just take a look at what's happening out there in the world of relationships for a second. And then I want to dive into specific stuff. This is a little bit heady right now, but it's important to look at it. We've been on this call. I've been on this call 12 minutes, 48 seconds. Every 15 seconds, there's a wedding in America. I know it's an average, but if you think about that, that's been how many, 30 or so? My math not working perfectly right now, but probably about 30 weddings while we've been on this call, if one happens every 15 seconds. And at a cost of $70 billion is what we've invested in weddings. Now, let's see if that's a good investment or not. Here we go. Next page. How are we doing? Between 876,000 to 1 million divorces every year. That's every 31 seconds to 36 seconds. So basically, since we've been on this call, or since I've been on this call, 26 people have gotten a divorce. The cost, $26 billion, 26,280,000,000 per year. But the real damage is families, kids, friends, self-esteem, lost hope and dreams, productivity, outlook on life, and a fear of trying to love again. This is why it takes so much courage, because this is not a good picture. So what we want to do is look at how to do it differently. And by the way, if something sparks you and it's like it's an aha for you, I'd love for you to type in what your ahas are as we go along here. All right, this, if you want to know why I do what I do, this slide kind of covers it. This one, that is in Maine. That's in a boathouse in Maine that my parents used to spend their summers there. And that is my mother and dad, for real. and they were married for 18 years. They met um, when they were younger. They were both up there working for an artist, Zorak, and they loved each other. They had 3 boys. I was the middle child, and this is me with my older brother who's no longer alive. So my parents got an incredibly painful divorce, not because they stopped loving each other, because they ran into problems that were bigger than their skill set. Um, they didn't have the skills. And so I'm going to talk about that because what are the skills you need to be in love and stay in love? By the way, that's me when I had long hair. And that's me with my first wife, my only wife, actually. I was married once and engaged 4 times. So, ready to dive in? Hopefully. Just so you have a little bit of an idea of where I came from and what my background is. My first teacher, one of the first people who really helped me understand the power of our beliefs, this is a guy named Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's me when I had more hair. Um, and that led me to my next mentor. This is Tony Robbins. And that's me. We were both a lot younger. And Tony taught me an awful lot about relationships, myself, the power of beliefs, understanding. I can think of my life before Tony and after Tony. And he taught me about a way of thinking and of problem solving. And for a long time, I was on his support staff and I would introduce him in front of the room. And then I quit, went on and learned from some other people. And then Tony hired me to come back and teach his inner circle at one point. And Tony was introducing me. So I knew my life had changed then. Anyway, then there was a lot of different mentors. This one was, though, a major one. His name is Marshall Rosenberg, the late Marshall Rosenberg. And he was the creator of Nonviolent Communication, NVC. And that transformed the way I think and how I communicate. And I have clients all around the world that I teach about this communication. The last one that I'm going to talk about right now, Byron Katie. And that's Byron. That's me with a little more hair than I have right now. All right. So that's a bit of my history. Here we go. What about relationships? It seems simple enough. What did the Beatles say? All you need is what? Love. They were wrong. They were so wrong. I love the Beatles, but it's not all you need. You need love plus skills plus what we're going to talk about, courage. Think about it. If you're flying an airplane or pilots flying an airplane, do you want them to have luck or skill? If you're going to create a remarkable relationship, do you want luck or skill? See, most people will tell you that it takes skill to keep it alive, but they treat it like it's luck. They never sit down and go, what skills do I need to make my relationship work? So I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to show you the 7 skills that, after over 25 years of researching it, the 7 skills that I think are essential to making a relationship remarkable. So, and while I'm telling this quick story, maybe you could type in, what are the skills you think are essential to making a relationship remarkable? I'd love to see your feedback. And sometimes I can see it here on the monitor, and sometimes, because this goes out to about, I don't know, 7 or 8 different places on Facebook, sometimes I can't see your responses until after I'm done, but I'll try to get back to everybody that comments. All right. So for 8.5 years, I taught in prison. I taught the nonviolent communication to inmates, and I taught a big mix of what I learned from Tony and Byron Katie and from Marshall Rosenberg. And one day I'm driving to teach at jail, And I had bacon that morning, and I got bacon stuck in my teeth. And this will apply. Don't worry, it's not a total rant on some other place. It will apply exactly what we're talking about. So I started trying to get. By the way, this is not a picture of me. I just found it on there, on somewhere on the internet. Anyway, I was trying to get the bacon out of my teeth, and the harder I tried, the worse it got. And finally, I'm getting really frustrated. I found a business card, so I wedged the business card in between my teeth to get the bacon out. And when I did that, the business card got wet and it tore off in my teeth. So now I have business card and bacon stuck in my teeth. What tool did I need? So if you could type in what tool, I know this is the interactive part, but what tool could totally handle it? And when I used the business card as a tool, if you use the wrong tool, what do? You make things worse. So I pulled the car over. I looked around in my glove compartment and I found a little toothpick. And how long did it take when I had the toothpick? When you have the right tool, it took seconds. When I had the wrong tools, everything I tried just made it worse. So, what are some of the tools that you think you need in relationships that will make a relationship work? And there's 7 of them. And let's see how many of them we can get. So, just type in whatever tools you think will make it work, and we'll apply we'll check out these here. And when I talk about a tool that really resonates with you, if you could type that in and go, oh, need that one. So number 1, and by the way, over here, on the left-hand side, this is what I consider normal. This is remarkable. So normal communication, combative, collapsing. We're trying to make each other bad, stupid, wrong. We're trying to figure out who to blame, shame, guilt. No one feels heard, understood, or valued. That is typical communication, especially when people are triggered. The more triggered they are, the worse their communication gets. On the other side, what I'm calling remarkable, these are where people have really worked on it. Their communication is courageous. And courage means to come from the heart. It comes from the French, from le coeur, from the heart. And it's challenging to be courageous, to be compassionate, to be curious and connecting. And what would happen in your relationship if this is the kind of communication you had where both of you felt heard, understood, and valued? So think about that. And if you rated yourself like 1 to, let's just go 1 to 4, because that will tie into the next slide. 1 being over here, and communication is your kryptonite. 4 being over here, and relationship is your superpower. I mean, communication, not relationship. So is communication your kryptonite or your superpower? Rate that 1 to 4. The next one, there's only one reason. Now, this is a challenging thing. There's only one reason to be in a relationship. And I know it's pompous for me to say it, and test it out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it, but watch it. Is to get your needs met. And watch what happens when you stop getting your needs met. The relationship starts to end or is over. And the important thing is to learn how to name and notice and negotiate your needs. So most of us don't even have a dialogue or a language to talk about our needs. Men were taught they have 2 needs, food and sex. And that's not at all true. That we have there's at least the top 10 needs. If you know what the top 10 needs are, and if we have time, I'll dive into them. But if you know what the top 10 needs are, you can talk about them. So most people in their relationship, their needs are ignored, avoided. They feel like a burden. People are ashamed of even having needs. Needs are their kryptonite. If I was a healthy, independent person, I wouldn't have needs. That's not really accurate, but over here, needs are endured, adored. They're treated as if they're precious. They are embraced. And it means that I'm embracing my needs and you're embracing my needs. And it doesn't mean that you're responsible for my needs, but it means that we treat each other's needs as precious. So again, over here, 1 to 4. One is it's your kryptonite. You can't even talk about needs. What needs? I don't have any needs. Don't call me needy. And over here, it's like, wow, my needs are precious. I can identify them. I can talk about them. I can make requests. And I want to know, is this making sense? Yes, no, just if you could type in making sense, or if you've got a question, if it's not making sense. Because the quality of your relationship is going to be based on the quality of your skills in each of these 7 areas. Number 3, this one is a biggie, is conflict resolution. And growing up, there was a lot of violence in my household, especially between my older brother and me. And he would beat me up on a regular basis. So conflict to me was like in my genes, terrifying. It was really scary. So this has been a muscle I've had to develop and work on so that I could be in an upset and not collapse, because that was the place that I would normally go to and still go to occasionally, is collapse. So when conflict happens, do you spiral downward? Do they rarely get resolved? Does it drive you apart? Does it scare you? Does it cause you to collapse and run? Does it cause you to give up on your needs? Or do you use it? Do you have compassion and curiosity? Do you use it to bring you closer? Do you look for what precious need is in the middle of that conflict? And I'm hoping that this is helpful in there and that this is working for you guys to look at it this way. It's sort of a breakdown of how relationships work. The next one here is there's a third one in this one. Wounds, triggers, whoops. And patterns. And we all get wounded. We all get wounded in relationships sometime or other. And sometimes we've been wounded a lot. Sometimes the wounding starts when we're watching our parents in relationship and how brutal they are with each other. So when we get wounded, we have 2 choices. We either get bitter. I'm going to change the color on that. So we get bitter or we get better. And the more wounded we are, the more unavailable we are for love, intimacy, sex, connection, romance, communication. We are very triggerable. We are what you might call trigger happy. And our patterns take us out of connection and communication. So what happens when we get wounded, we get bitter, we can avoid feeling, we build up walls rather than boundaries. It's good to have boundaries in relationships, but it's not so good to have walls. If we have a healthy way of being with our wounds and our triggers, what happens is we get better. We are able to feel the upset, the disappointment, the heartbreak, so that we can heal it. And we meet ourselves and our partners with compassion. And I'd love to tell you stories about each of these because I've had couples from around the world. We do a lot of coaching over Zoom, and it has transformed their relationship when they're able to talk about their triggers. They're able to identify their patterns with me and my ex. Well, we didn't get over all of our patterns, I'll tell you that. But a lot of our patterns we started to identify, and it made it easier. One of the patterns we had is you started it. See, and if you watch what happens if you tell your partner, like I told her, you started, and she goes, no, you started it. And I go, no, you started it. And it's like this downward spiral. There's no cheese down that tunnel. Even if we figured out who started it, it wouldn't help. So we have these patterns that trigger us and take us away from being connected to each other and into an upset. So more on that later. So wounds, triggers, and patterns. Level 1, level 4. Oh, conflict resolution, level 1. Level 1, again, like I said, it's kryptonite. If something happens around that, it takes you out. It's level 4, handling wounds, patterns, and triggers. That's your superpower. So next one, building trust. And by the way, hopefully this is helpful. So if this is helpful to you, I'd love to see which one so far has made the biggest difference. Which one do you need to work on the most? Is it communication, meeting needs, conflict resolution, wounds, triggers, and patterns? Or the next one, building trust? And by the way, let me get in there. There are 2 types of trust. This is critical. Type number 1 is the one that almost everybody thinks about. That is, do I trust you? Will you keep your agreements? Will you keep your word? Will you keep your boundaries? And over here, the people don't. Agreements are broken. The word isn't kept. Boundaries are not respected. Over here, in a remarkable relationship, agreements are kept. It feels like your partner's got your back. Boundaries are respected. So the first side of it, the first type of it is, do I trust you? The more important part is, do I trust me in a relationship with you? Will I keep my agreements to myself? Will I keep my boundaries? Will I meet my needs? Will I take care of myself? So how are you as far as trust goes in a relationship? 1, 4, 1. Okay. And I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you getting out of this? Like I said at the beginning of this is, to me, it's interactive. Even though, like on Thursday when I do my next call, I'll have this great guest with me. And that's so much more fun for me when I got it interactive. So it's great when you type in your answers, because then I can interact with you out there in Facebook land. All right. The next one, 3 shades of intimacy. I guess I should say 3 shades of intimacy. The 3 shades of intimacy are: number 1, emotional; number 2, physical; number 3, sexual. So how are you doing on the 3 shades of intimacy? Can you be emotionally intimate with your partner? Can you talk about your feelings and your needs? I'm scared, I'm disappointed, I'm hurt, and I feel vulnerable. And really start to develop what my friend Scott calls emotional IQ. And he's got a course coming up called Relationship Essentials. So that's something that some of you may want to check out. If you want individual or you want couples coaching, that'd be something to come and talk to me about. If you want to go to a course called Relationship Essential, come and talk to me again, and I will forward you on to Scott. Take the course. I've taken it myself. Awesome stuff. All right. So when it comes to intimacy, is it avoided? It is embarrassing? Does vulnerability feel bad to you? Are you able to talk about what you want? Are you able to talk about your emotion, or that you want a hug, or that you want to make love? Or do you feel ashamed, and that your partner should be able to read your mind and know what you want without you having to talk about it? By the way, that's why communication is at the top here, because all the rest of these we experience at some levels through how we communicate. Now, the other side is on intimacy. Is it leaned into? Can you lean into it? Can you go, I'm feeling scared and uncomfortable right now, and I'm going to lean into that rather than run from the room. And I'm going to open up a conversation about that. Does intimacy bring you closer? does vulnerability, do you look at vulnerability as something that's good? And if you haven't watched Brene Brown's TED Talk on vulnerability, I highly recommend as soon as you get off of this, bounce over there, check out Brene Brown TED Talk vulnerability. I don't know how many millions of views she's got on it, but that's a good one. Another one that I did was on it's called Tantra, I think, Exploring Sacred Sexuality. And that's a talk I did a couple of years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago. It's got, now it's almost 6 million views. So because sacred sexuality is another form of communication, it's a form of intimacy. How do we want to communicate with each other in the bedroom, which is critical to keeping a great relationship alive? All right. So when it comes to intimacy, again, are you a 1? Are you a 4? And by the way, if you look at this right here, this, hopefully you can take a snapshot of it, because everything that we've been doing right now fits right in there. If you're a level 4, it's your superpower, you would just go like this. If it's your kryptonite, you go here. And you start to go right across and you fill it out. You go, oh, I'm there, here. Wounds and triggers. Actually, no, I'm going to put wounds and triggers right down here. So it's almost like that would be, this is your scorecard that you have to work on, so that if you go and work with someone like me, who's a relationship coach or a therapist or a counselor or whoever you're working with, you can walk in and you can show them this right here and say, here's where I'm really weak, and here's the problems it's creating in my relationship. And if you think about it, it's not, we're not trying to figure out who's right, who's wrong, who do we blame. If you don't have a skill, like if you're golfing and your putting sucks, you get a putting coach, or someone who teaches you how to drive right or swing right. I'm not really a golfer, but whenever we want to improve a skill, we get a coach or a teacher or a mentor to help us. And so there's no shame in not being able to do something. The shame is in staying ignorant and just avoiding it. So here is another one it's number 7, but it's critical. Dealing with differences, difficulties, and decisions, the big D's in relationships. How do we deal with our differences? Do they drive us apart, make us weaker, feel like something is wrong, or do we get excited about our differences? Do they bring us together, make us stronger? And the talking about is feel like something is great. So there you go. That is the 7 skills. Now what I want you to do is, hopefully you can take a picture of this and then fill it out. And at some point, if you want, you can send me your picture and say, here's what I'm working on. And if you do that, if you even if you have to handwrite this, you send this to me, I will spend a half an hour with you, and we can look at where you are now, where you want to go, what you can do about it, what are the roadblocks, and create a plan for you. And then if you want to end up, if it feels good to work together, it feels like it'd be fun for both of us, I'll tell you how I work with couples. And I've worked with couples that deal with all sorts of issues: jealousy, betrayals, communication issues, all sorts of challenges. All right. Oh, and to do that, basically, if you just go and fill out the survey, that would be enough. Go fill out the survey, and then in one of the boxes say, I want a 15-minute or 30-minute session. Now, to do that, though, you've got to fill out the survey and then do this. All right. And I know I'm covering a lot of information, and thank you. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for all the comments that I've seen and all the comments I haven't seen yet. When you think about relationships and you think about the Titanic, What sank the Titanic? Was it the iceberg that they could see or the iceberg that they couldn't see? What sinks your relationship? Is it the stuff that you see or the stuff that you don't see? And we went over a lot of that. So I'm just going to leave on a tip for communication. And by the way, I would love to see a couple more people say what are the 7 skills that they need to work on the most and what difference it would make on your relationship. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but this is really critical. I don't want to leave this one before you really have let this in. So which one's most important to you right now? I'd like to learn about communication. I'd like to learn about my needs. What are the top 10 needs? How do I notice them in my body? How do I name them? How do I negotiate them? How do I resolve conflict so it brings us closer rather than recycling the issues over and over again? What difference would these make if I could heal my wounds, tame my triggers, identify my patterns? What would happen if could build trust in my relationship? Then the 3 shades of intimacy and dealing with differences. Which of these would make the biggest difference for you in your relationship? If you could let me know that, that would be cool. Okay. Titanic, what you could see, what you can't see. I'm taking a 2-second breather. Sip of water. I wanted to have you walk away with something that is very impactful. If you could even print this out and look at it. This is the 3 different ways that we communicate, especially when triggered. So at the bottom line here, there's collapsed or combative. So this I'm calling the trauma drama line. And growing up, if you had a lot of trauma and drama in your family, in your relationships, you got taught pretty much one or the other. Collapsed is where you basically gave up. You know, that's a picture of my puppy on its back. It's like if a big dog comes up, that's what he does. He just lies on its back and says, you know, I give up, no problem. You know, nope, there's no fight here. And this is great for puppies, but in relationships, it ends up being lose-win. You end up, I'm giving up on my needs because I'm afraid of conflict. I'm afraid of upsetting you. I'm afraid. So you get to win. I lose. I'm afraid of conflict. Over on this side is I don't care about you winning or anything. I have to win. I would rather die than lose. Over here, I would rather lose than die. So this was my older brother and me growing up. I collapsed. I would rather lose than die. And he would beat on me until I basically gave up. And so it's important to talk about it now is it shapes our relationships, and we watch ourselves, our partner collapse, and we go, what just happened? Or we watch ourselves collapse. Or on the other side, we watch ourselves become combative, like life or death. I have to win. And it's like, who am I winning against? In my family, it was my dad who had to win. He had to win. And who was losing? My mom. He would shut her down, and his favorite thing that he would say, I don't know, favorite, but it was an expression he used all the time, is the best defense is a strong offense. And he would get really offensive, and it would create lots of pain, and it was scary to be around. and he had to win. He would rather die than lose. And it came from his upbringing during the Depression and being moved from school to school. And he really did. I'm not making my dad wrong. He had a gentle heart, and he could be a total asshole alcoholic. Now, I understand both of these. I've done both of these. All right. And I still do both of these at times. Back me into a corner, I can get combative. Or back me into a corner, I can collapse. What I want to do and what I do when I'm feeling conscious and courageous is to be compassionate. So, what I'd love to see is, where do you go when you're backed into a corner? Do you collapse? Are you combative? Are you courageous? And it's important to know this, and it's important to tell your partner so that they understand it, and so that you can be compassionate with yourself and compassionate with each other, and to come from the heart, to lean in, to create win-win, to be, as one of my trainers, a woman named Allison Armstrong. And by the way, I did an interview with her probably a month or two ago. Awesome interview. What a remarkable woman when it comes to the world of relationships. Um, she's probably one of the best encyclopedias and compassionate people to understanding men and understanding women. And what she said is being voluntarily vulnerable. That's where we're courageous and can come from the heart. So that is all I'm going to cover. I had a bunch more slides, but I'm not going to spend too much time on more slides. I don't want to overwhelm you with stuff. I want you to know that it's there. This is the last concept. I talked about the reason to be in a relationship is to get your needs met. This is a 2-second view of the top 10 needs for relationships. This is not all the needs by any means, but certainty and trust, uncertainty and variety, because these are, you need this and you need this. So it's like this certainty, you get a great meal. But the problem is, if you get the same great meal 7 days in a row, it doesn't meet your need for variety. We need to feel significant, like we're a priority. And so it's important, even if you have just a little bit of time to spend with each other, it's a priority. Make them a priority for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. This is the same with your kids. Hi, Lorna, I just saw your thing. This is my relationship after 40 years of marriage. We never learned these communication skills. Yeah, I get it. I didn't learn them either until after divorce number 1, and I don't know how many broken engagements. That's why I teach this, because it has been so painful to me. So, needs: certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, intimacy. And by the way, there's the 5 love languages that you need to learn: intimacy, physical intimacy, sexual intimacy, attraction, contribution, growth. If you're getting all those met at, so we have a scale between 1 to 10. If you're getting those met at 6 or above, you have an awesome relationship. Whoops. Don't know what happened here. Stop. Okay, there we go. Terrified of technology, or terrified by technology. Okay, here we go. It's decision time. You learned some new stuff today, but information isn't why you're here. Transformation is. If you don't integrate what you heard today, it doesn't make your relationship any better. So the decision is over here, you can go to Noah Active. That's an odd way of saying it. or being proactive and taking action, because things are not going to change just because you know more. Until you integrate what you've learned, nothing changes. And here's one of the quotes I love from Tony Robbins. You can either cut a path or you can follow a trail. If you follow a trail, it basically is, how do you turn decades? And literally, I have studied this for decades. How do you turn decades into days? It's so much easier to follow a trail in this world of relationships, and be courageous. If remarkable relationships were easy, everybody would have one. I would be out of a job, which would be fine with me. I'd go do something else. But remarkable relationships are not easy. They're complex. There's those 7 core skills. There's a whole other area I didn't talk about, which is your mindset, your heart set, your skill set. We went through the skill set part. We did not go through the mindset and the heart set. I want to leave with a quote and a call to action. A ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships were built for. Your heart is safe outside of a relationship. You can protect yourself. You can avoid it. You cannot be vulnerable, but that's not what your heart was built for. If your heart was built for creating a remarkable relationship and you want some help in doing that, here is my invitation. Reach out to me. We'll spend, and actually it's probably more like 15 to 30 minutes, and let's talk. What we'll talk about your desired results, your dreams, your current reality, your roadblocks. Now, if you come and spend an hour and a half with me, that's fine. We do that. That's a $297 thing. And people said they get more out of that than years of normal therapy. What I want to do is do this and do it and give it as a gift. It's my gift to you. You can go to arguelesslovemore.net/clarity and set up an appointment, and we'll spend that time together. Give yourself the opportunity to have a breakthrough. And I would love to know what you got from today. What made the biggest difference? If you could type that in, that's great. And if you know people that you think what I shared today will help them in their relationship, please share this Facebook Live event, this video. All right. Thank you so much. It's been a joy. I've loved interacting with you, even though it was just on the comment sheet. Have a great day. We'll see you next Thursday. By the way, in closing, the last thing, almost every day, either at 9 in the morning or at 6 at night, one of me or my co-love coaches from Love Coach Academy do a broadcast, like Saturday Night Live. Scott Katamas does Saturday Night Live, and that has typically gets seen by 40 to 50,000 people every Saturday night. We've had guests like John Gray, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Michael Beckwith. It's an amazing event. So you're in the right place. If you want couples coaching, come to me. If you want other coaching, well, they're all good coaches too. Go to Love Coach Academy. All right, I've said a lot. Thank you for your time and energy. Now go make a difference. If you want to talk to me, schedule it now. Don't wait. I will talk to you later.